Hey everybody, it's P here, and we're back with another Archetype 101. This week we're really going to go ham. We're going to be covering the rest of the ones we haven't done, which means I think tomorrow and Thursday we're actually going to double up on the archetypes that we're going to be covering, which is great. A lot of content. Who needs sleep? And today we're covering King Vegeta. I like the concept of this deck. I actually think it's really cool in how it interacts with your opponent. It creates weird board states. But of course, guys, if you want to pick up any of the cards that we talked about today or pre-order any of your set 13 sealed pack, I have to point you guys over to 3 Mana Inc., the best place in Canada to get your Dragon Ball sealed and singles product. And if you want to watch me pilot decks like these, I do fun decks all the time. I did True and Salsa a couple of weeks ago. I regret it. I did launch last week, mess around with everything under the sun. I play on Twitch every Monday through Thursday and on weekends. The links to that in the description down below. But with that said, let's jump right into set 13 King Vegeta. So very off the bat, it is an invasion based synergy, which makes sense, right? The Saiyans were invaders, they go on to other planets, destroy it, yada yada yada. This is basically what this whole archetype is based around, which is very thematically very cool to go with King Vegeta IMO. And it's an Evo based aggro, so effectively once you've done your invasion aspects, you start pulling away those cards from there to be able to play your other cards that are bigger and stronger. And that's basically the whole concept behind this deck. And with everything, it starts with the leader. So kicking us off, we have King Vegeta. When this card is placed in your leader area, activate 1 Young Invaders from your deck, and we'll see that right in a moment. Auto, when this card attacks, look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck, add up to 1 mono red Saiyan card, energy cost of 5 or less among them to your hand, and then shuffle your decks. That's great consistency. There is some pros and cons. Not having a straight draw does mean that if your deck relies on or wants to see any Tekir cards like negates or anything like that, it is harder to get them in your hand because your draw doesn't give you a chance of pulling those in. So there's that aspect, but otherwise in terms of consistency, this does really well in being able to find you the pieces that you need. When you or your opponent's life is at 4 or less, you may draw 1 card, switch it to 1 of your energy active mode, add up cards from your life until you have 5 life left, and then flip this card over. Seen this before, this is an interesting way. It's nice that you're able to awaken when your opponent is, because as an aggressive deck, it means you're able to push your advantage more so and more so while dealing damage to your opponent, not having to worry so much about self-awakening. On the awakened side, we have King Vegeta, head of the Saiyan Rebellion. Permanent, reduce the combo cost of all red Saiyan cards with 500 power in your hand to buy 1, which is weird, right? But it's actually pretty relevant when we see the cards moving forward, what the little invaders are gonna be like. Auto, when this card attacks, draw 1 card. Auto, once per turn, when the power of 1 of your opponent's cards is decreased, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, and it gets minus 10k power for the turn. So it's cool, it's extra removal. This deck synergizes a lot with giving your opponent little 500 power mini Saiyans. So we're just pushing that further by being able to combo with them later on. It just they're really awkward for your opponent to do anything with on their board, essentially. Beyond the leader, of course, to kick us off is the field card. So 3 cost Young Invaders, which does get played for free with the leader. Auto, if your leader card is a King Vegeta BR card, at the start of your opponent's turn, play up to 1 red Saiyan card with 500 power from your deck to your opponent's battle area. Then shuffle your deck. If you played a card, you can't play battle cards that aren't red Saiyan cards. So this does lock you into Saiyans only, but for the sake of this archetype, that's pretty much just fine. And this is what I meant by you're invading your opponent's board. You're sending stuff over their board, which could be busted if it wasn't the cards we were sending them, which we're about to see in a second. Activate main, once per turn, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, then play up to 1 red Saiyan card with 500 power from your deck in rest mode, skills negated for the game, then shuffle your deck. This time actually being on your own side of the board, and then activate main once per turn for 1 red, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, and it gets minus 5,000 power for the turn. Just extra usage, it's extra utility. You don't mind seeing it, and it does mean that you can deal with those little, nuggets you send over there if you really wanted to. Then we have the invaders themselves. Starting off with Son Goku, Hope of the Saiyans, 1 cost auto. When this card is played, switch it to rest mode, which means that your opponent isn't really going to be able to get usage out of it if you just play it right there and then. Then we have Vegeta, the Young Invader, 1 drop 500 unique. When this card is played, if your life is at 5 or more and your opponent's leader card is a red King Vegeta BR card, place up to 1 card from your life in your drop area, then draw 1 card. So they do get to draw a card, which is kind of tough, but you're burning your opponent. So you're sending it over to their side and they get the proc. Oh, well, your opponent's, I am running King Vegeta. It's going to pop off and cost you a life. Auto, once per turn, when 1 of your cards is attacked, choose that card and it gets minus 5k power for the battle. And this is where the utility of having it on your side goes. So you get some benefits on both sides. So your opponent is getting some level of advantage for you being able to do this kind of thing, but eventually you're going to be able to do something with these 1 drops anyways. So this is just more of what you're doing. Setting the 1 drop, you're burning them, you're putting them in awkward positions, and then you can go ahead and move forward. Then we have Broly, the Young Invader, 1 cost of 500, unique. When this card is played, if your life is at 5 or more and your opponent's leader card is a red King Vegeta BR card, place 1 card from your life in your drop area, then draw 1 card. So same thing as the Vegeta. However, here's an auto. When you play a battle card on your turn, choose 1 card in your hand and send it to its owner's warp. At the end of the turn, return the card that you sent to its owner's warp to its owner's hand. So Broly here, way more punishing to your opponent, meaning that for that turn, you're basically gonna lose out on cards in your hand the more stuff you play. So once per turn, of course, but it's again, those little annoying taxes on top of your opponent already trying to deploy their strategy. And then finally, we have Raditz Young Invader, this being the TP promo one. And from the looks of it, it's the one that synergizes with almost any aspects of this deck. Whether you go the Son Goku line, the Vegeta line, or the Broly line, like we're going to see later. All of them work with their own little invader as well as the Raditz. So you're probably going to be looking to pick up 4 copies of the Raditz if you are planning on running this deck. It's a TP promo, just got to put it out there. But Raditz Young Invader, 1 cost of 500 power auto. When this card is played, if your life is at 5 or more and your opponent's leader card is a red King Vegeta BR card, place a card from your life in your drop, then draw 1 card. So here, no taxes, so it doesn't benefit your opponent, it doesn't make your opponent's life annoying, but it just straight up burns, making it the cleanest one out of all 4. Then we're kicking it up, going up a notch and going into what our aggro wants to do. So starting off, we have the 3-drop SSG Son Goku to the next level, 1900 power blocker auto once per turn. At the end of turn, or when this card activates, its blocker skill switches to active mode, which is great. It means it's basically like it's not really a dual, it's a dual attacker that you don't attack twice with. So you get your swing, it's still going to be a blocker, and you're actually going to get dual blockage out of it, which makes it a really good defender. Activate main for 1 red, you may choose one of your opponent's red Raditz BR or Son Goku BR cards with an original power of 500 and place it at the bottom of their owner's deck. If you do, play this card from your hand. And that's what we're saying, right? You get to use those 500s to be able to put them back on your board. They're 500, so your opponent's not attacking you with them anyway, so they're really just chilling on board. And from what we saw previously, all of them, aside from the Goku, were 1k combos. So your opponent could combo them away, but it's not great, and it's really annoying to do. And we mitigate that for when we're on our awakened side with King Vegeta by just being able to combo them normally. But again, like I was saying, here we hit the Raditz and all of them will be able to use the Raditz. So it'll definitely be the most flexible one you'll be looking to have in your deck. Raditz also doesn't have unique, so here we have SSG Vegeta to the next level, 3 cost at 19k unique critical. When this card is played, look at top 5 cards from the top of your deck. Add up to 1 red Saiyan card when it cost of 5 or less, or up to 1 red Unis card with its benefit cost of 1 among them to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. And for 1 red, you either get to take a Raditz or a Vegeta, send it to the bottom of your deck, and then play this. So it's a 19k critical that you get paid for 1. Very on cost, it's very good statted. On top of being a searcher, able to find you the next level of your Evo chain, which is really sweet. Of course, to round out, we have SS Broly Unchained to Might, 19k barrier. If you have 2 or more energy and all your opponent's energy is in rest mode, which is really weird to see in red, but nevertheless, when this card is played, your opponent reveals their hand, you choose up to 1 battle card with 15 power or less among them, and set it to owner's warp. At the end of your opponent's next turn, you get the card back. So the same Broly effect that we've seen with Broly Swap, or just Red's way of doing hand destruction, we see it here on this card. And again, for 1 red, you either get a Raditz or a Broly, send them to the bottom of your deck from your opponent's side of the field, and you go ahead and play this. Of course, Archetypes wouldn't be without TPs these days, and this is no different. Alongside the Raditz, we also have SS Son Goku switching gears, 3 cost 10k, activate main. You may choose one of your opponent's Raditz BR or Son Goku BR cards with an original power of 500 and place it at the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, play this card from your hand, and you can't activate main from copies of this card for the rest of the turn. Activate battle once per turn. Choose 1 card ahead and place it at the bottom of the deck. Choose one of your opponent's battle cards and it gets minus 10k power for the turn. So this combos on top of the leader, meaning that comboed with this, you're now giving something minus 20k. It's nice removal. I don't think it's insane, but it does give you options. It also allows you to go up your chain without having to pay energy, which is a pretty big deal. And of course, with any Goku, we have Vegeta, SS Vegeta switching gears, 3 cost 10k. Auto, choose 1 card in your hand, place it at the bottom of the deck. When this card is played, you get to draw 2 cards. So replace 2 cards from your deck, sweet. And once again, he gets to play himself for free with a Raditz or Vegeta. So again, these just having great utility in the form of being able to go for free. They don't search, however, so they don't get as much benefit, but at the end of the day, they're free plays, meaning that they're pretty critical in speeding up how this deck is able to go. Rounding out up, we do have the full power versions of all of our favorite Saiyans. SSB Son Goku at full power, 5 cost 25k, deflect, dual attack, blocker. EX evolve for triple red, and you get to draw a card. It has to be a Son Goku BR with an energy cost of 3, which there is some synergy with other Gokus. I just want to say Son Goku BR is not new, neither with the Vegeta, so you could mess with those old support there. Permanent, this card can attack your opponent's battle cards in active mode, which is always sweet for board control. Auto once per turn if your leader card is a red Saiyan card. When this card kills one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 2 or more, or if it's removed from your battle area by one of your opponent's skill, you get to deal 1 damage to your opponent. More burn, and the condition is really easy to be met. Once you have this card on board, your opponent cannot deal with it outside of combat without burning themselves, which means defensively, he might be perfect. Offensively, he might be perfect. You could put your opponent in really awkward positions. SSB Vegeta at full power, 5 cost 25k, deflect double strike, one being the dual attacker, this one being a double striker. EX evolve for triple red, and you get to draw a card on top of a Vegeta BR, one energy cost of 3. Permanent, this card can't be played by any player with non-evolved skills. Alright, fair. Oh, yeah, I forgot. The Goku has that as well. They have to be evoed into, which makes sense. They're pretty strong cards. Auto, if this card is in rest mode, when one of your opponent's battle cards is played or attacks, you may choose that card and it gets minus 10k power for the turn. And this isn't once per turn, which means every single time you get to neg their cards. And your leader sees the neg and gives it additional neg. So now we're really seeing the synergies come together. Auto, when this card is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill, place 1 card from your opponent's life in their drop area. Once again, even more burn. And then wrapping it up, we have SS Broly Brawn Amplified, 5 cost, deflect, barrier, 30k. EX evolve for triple red, draw 1 card on a red Broly BR with an energy cost of 3. Permanent, this card can't be played from area without non-evolved skills. Auto, once per turn, if this card is in rest mode, when your opponent attacks a leader card, they reveal their hand, choose up to 1 card in it and send it to the warp, and then they get it back at the end of the turn. So this is really good in punishing, like, let's say your opponent has a Champa in hand or anything in hand. First, it's information letting you know, hey, what does he have? Can he kill me? Yada, yada, yada. Broly here lets you be like, I don't want to deal with that, or at least help you understand what's going to come for when it comes through. So to take all of this and bring it together, of course, we have the support cards. So 1 cost, a sudden escape, counterattack. If your lead card is a red Saiyan card, negate the attack. Play up to 1 red Saiyan card with an energy cost of 1 and 500 power from your deck with skills negated for the game, and then shuffle your deck. So there's just a negate way to also get the benefit of also being able to find a Goku or Vegeta or whatever you need to be able to go up your chain, which is really nice, and it's skills negated, so you're not going to get burned. Activate main, if your lead card is a red Saiyan only card, play up to 1 red Saiyan card with an energy cost of 1 and 500 power from your deck into your opponent's battle area, shuffle your deck, and then draw 1 card. It replaces itself. It gives it, you could burn your opponent for 1 if they're not already at 5 or more. So again, more of that synergy, a lot of consistency in a lot of the support. And we have Gine at our husband's side, 2 cost 10k super combo. The super combo is applicable to any red deck, but hey, we're gonna talk about it here because it's a red Saiyan, you can include it. And like we've been saying it before, these are great defensively and offensively if you're gonna multi-combo. Single combo, they are worse because they're only 5k combos, but all of a sudden they become 11k combos if you go and synergize it with another combo card, which is really sweet. Then, of course, we have the Unison. Every archetype will have its own Unison here. 1 cost, Black Mask Saiyan, Brawler from another dimension. That is a name and a half. Auto once per turn when your opponent adds a card from their life to their hand or places a card from their life to their drop area. Add a marker to this card, and if it's your turn, this card gets 5k power for the turn. On your turn, this turns into a 15k attacker. You can burn your opponent both on their turn and your own turn, which is really sweet. It adds a marker. So you're really going to want to be able to do that because there are no pluses on this layer. The only way to plus is to keep on doing this whole burn shenanigans with your little minions. Plus 0 auto, when your opponent plays a battle card, your opponent may choose that card and it gets minus 5,000 power for the turn. If they don't, add 2 markers to this card. So it doesn't have barrier, which can get around this, but minus 5,000 power is enough for turn 1, turn 2, not being able to deal with this card. It deals with a lot of bullets. A lot of bullets that don't have barrier just get really wrecked with this and causes them a really hard time. So this could be a really annoying card for your opponent. Mind you, it isn't impossible for your opponent to deal with this, for sure. But it definitely can make their lives annoying, especially if they're relying on a decent amount of 1-drops to be able to do their thing. But it's an auto, which means they get to choose the timing, which is pretty easy to play around. Now, if you get into the ultimate, activate main, this card gets 15 power and double strike for the turn. Nothing crazy, but hey, it's a solid double strike for turn. And actually, this is the only SR, I'm fairly certain, for the main archetype. Obviously, there's going to be the negates that we're about to see in a minute, which are very powerful. But this archetype's pretty cheap. If you can get around the TPs, which there are a number of them, I'm not gonna act like there's not. This is actually a pretty low to the ground archetype in terms of rarity. Now, talking about the defenses, we have King Vegeta Hidden Ambitions, 1 cost, counter, if your lead card and all energy are mono red and your opponent has 3 or more energy, negate the counter skill of an extra card with an energy cost of 1 that was activated without paying its energy cost, then play this card. And then activate main for 1 red if your lead card is a red Saiyan card and you place this card in its owner's drop area. Play up to 1 mono red Vegeta's lineage card with an energy cost of 3 and 10,000 power or less from your deck. Then shuffle your deck. So actually all of the Vegetas in this archetype are Vegeta's lineage. So unlike the Bardock archetype, which we talked about, this one actually gets the extra utility if you really need it. It also allows you to go into a 3-drop and then go into your Vegeta, which is really awesome. Then we have King Vegeta's Imposing Presence counterattack. If your lead card is a mono red Saiyan card, you may choose the attacking card, ignoring barrier, and it gets minus 10k power for the turn. Your opponent can't attack with cards unless they get negative 5k every single time they attack. And then permanently, if your life is at 3 or less, you can activate this card counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost and choosing 1 card in your hand, discarding it. So basically a free, though you neg 1 in hand. Again, another floodgate. We've been seeing these for a while now, and I just think they're kind of important in the game because it just, everything needs floodgates these days. And that wraps up set 13, King Vegeta, a very powerful archetype that does really cool things. I think I love how thematic it is. We're going to shoot the invaders over to your planet, we're going to wreck your house, and then we're going to take them back, and then their stronger forms are going to be able to finish off the job. I think the archetype is really cool. It's pretty low to the ground, lots of rares, uncommons, commons. There's a few SRs that definitely make the difference in the deck, but overall it seems like a really fun archetype, and one of the ones that I'm looking forward to picking up because it just seems like a fun way to interact with your opponent. With that said, guys, how would you build the deck? I'd love to know in the comments down below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, hey, thumbs down works too. If you want to watch more of my videos, of course, we're wrapping up all Archetype 101s for the week. Subscribe button's in the corner. With that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Ciao.